If there's one thing that keeps Bear's gameplay loop fresh, aside from grinding hours to get a comically overpriced skin, it's the game modes. Bear Alpha's got plenty of these, so I decided to rank all 7 of them, yes 7, from worst to best. There are 7 game modes in Bear Alpha: Classic, Double Down, Infection, One Bounce, Freeze Tag, Boss, and Juggernaut. So I'm going to be ranking all of them. Starting off with last place on our list, we have Freeze Tag. I don't think anyone is surprised about Freeze Tag being in last. The mode just really sucks. The whole gimmick of the mode is that when Bear touches you, instead of being damaged, you're instead frozen, and other survivors can help you, but if they don't do this quickly enough, you die. This sounds like a good idea at first, until you realize how horribly unbalanced this mode is. First things first, for Bear, it is insanely easy. It is rare to get a freeze tag round that lasts more than 2 minutes, because for whatever reason, Bear is ridiculously fast. This means that not only is it impossible to see Bear coming, but when you do see Bear coming, you just get frozen anyways because there's no reaction time to that. And because the survivor is frozen in one spot, Bear can just camp that spot, meaning if a survivor tries to help another survivor, they get frozen as well. But even if Bear isn't camping you, don't expect to be saved because all the other survivors really like to just hide in one spot. So not only is Bear so powerful and fast to the point where one hit is a game over, but you're never going to get anyone selfless enough to actually save you. And if you want to save them, don't expect them to save you back. And it's not fun as Bear either. As Bear, the mode is so remarkably easy that rounds just end incredibly fast. So no matter who you're playing as, this mode is boring, unfun, and unbalanced. So how would I fix this mode? Well, because the mode does suck, I will suggest how to fix it. First things first, I think it's only fair that you slowly regenerate health if you've been unfrozen. That way, they're encouraged to run away, get their health back, and then attempt to save anybody else who may be frozen. However, this should only happen if a survivor is far away from Bear. That way players can't repeatedly unfreeze each other, making the mode impossible for Bear. Also, Bear should be far slower. Making Bear really fast on freeze tag was a terrible idea. If Bear was just slower than normal, then this would fix all of the problems, since again, Bear practically kills you in one hit. Overall, freeze tag isn't a fun game mode at all, but it's really only a few fixes away from genuinely being good. It's a massive shame that some really poor choices led to freeze tag being the worst mode in the game, because at the time, I genuinely thought it was fun for the concept alone. Anyways, every other mode on this list thankfully is way better than freeze tag, and speaking of freezing and just ice in general, next mode on the list is Juggernaut. Juggernaut is one of 2 event game modes in this list, meaning it was only around for a short time, and coincidentally, the other event game mode is a Christmas related one as well. Juggernaut specifically though was only around for the Christmas 2022 event, and was removed around January. Overall, this mode's got a pretty fun concept. Instead of survivors and bears, you have elves, and of course, Sam himself. As the elves, your goal is to strike down Sam, and become him if you land a finishing blow. And if you're Sam, your goal is to protect yourself from the savage elves by attacking them as a means of defense. This is a cool idea, haha get it, cool, and when playing it itself, it's quite fun. Honestly, I don't really have any huge problems with this one, so the main reason it's this low is for the very simple fact that I barely got to play it. It would have been really nice if you could play Juggernaut in more maps than just Santa's Winter Stronghold. For example, for the Christmas 2022 event, why not have it be available in multiple maps? Or heck, even just have Juggernaut as an extra mode you can play in spicy servers. That would be a really great way to add replayability to the game, even more than it already has. Overall, Juggernaut's just a good game mode overall. The one complaint I have is that the person who becomes Sam is always the one who lands the finishing blow, so you could be doing all of the work, but if one guy comes in and lands the final blow, they're the one who gets rewarded. But that's really the only major flaw in this game mode. So, let's move on to 5th place, that being Infection. Infection's definitely one of the more chaotic modes of the bunch. The whole premise of it is that if you die, well, you don't die, instead you are reborn as a bear. That's a really cool idea, and means that you could just casually turn around and suddenly 5 bears are chasing you at once and you only have 100 sprint to use to run away from them. It can be pretty terrifying sometimes. But truth be told, that's kind of a double-edged sword. If the other survivors suck, then all of a sudden, 1 minute in, there are 5 bears, which can make it feel really unfair when you die because your fellow teammates weren't good enough. And there's also one thing about infection that I absolutely despise, and I kid you not, if there weren't so many other good things about this game mode, this would have made it get last. And that is the simple fact that as a survivor, the moment you become bear, any puzzles you do no longer give you quids. So if you do a wire puzzle, cheese puzzle, color code, and then get infected, all of that quids you would have gotten is suddenly taken away from what you would have earned by the end of the round. This to me is a really harsh punishment. For simply getting infected, you lose so much quids and now have barely any time to catch any other survivors that would have been alive by then. It's at a point where you're basically encouraged to hide, which may not even work. No wonder some people just let themselves get infected at the start of the round. They don't want to fall victim to a punishment as cruel as that. That's really the only problem with this mode though, and truth be told is the main reason why it's this low. Thankfully though, the top 4 game modes don't have this problem, starting with 4th place, Boss. Like Juggernaut, Boss is another event mode. It was only around for Christmas 2019 and 2024 before going forever, and in the short amount of time I got to play it, it was really fun. Basically, it's a full-on boss fight against Sam himself. You shoot him with a massive snowball launcher, and he has some attacks of his own. He can throw some snowballs at you, some massive glowing balls, and this devastating glacier attack that practically insta-kills you if you so much as scrape by it. It is a really fun fight, and overall, one of the best ones in both Bear Alpha and Bear Star. For the most part, I'm a bit mixed on Bear boss fights. After all, some of them just aren't too fun. But thankfully, the one boss fight we do have in Bear Alpha is a pretty fun and balanced one. I know technically the Vector boss fight is also a boss fight, but that one you don't get in any maps, it's more so an extra thing you can do as a quest, so I'm not really counting it as a boss fight game mode. Anyway, overall, the one boss fight we get against Santa Sam himself is a pretty good one. So, it's time to move on to 3rd place, One Bounced. Originally known as the most infamously poorly balanced mode, why is this mode so high up? Because it's absolutely crazy. You have to deal with everyone being bear except for one survivor. If you're the bear, it's pretty simple, usually the survivor dies in 30 minutes. But then when you are the survivor, it is absolute chaos. The moment you see one bounce, and then I'm suddenly picked as a survivor, you're like, well, I'm screwed. And in some maps, you are screwed. Maps like Anamoya practically give the survivor no escape against the bears, but on open maps like Yorick's Resting Place, Haunted Mansion, and Happy Terror, it becomes incredibly fun. You see, even though the survivor still has about 100 health, the survivor is given 300 sprint, which not only lets the survivor go faster, but it also regenerates way faster. This means that a survivor who knows what they're doing and doesn't poop themselves the moment they know who they are can win pretty reliably. All they have to do is stay alert. And that makes One Bounce incredibly fun to play as a survivor. I have 2 issues with the mode though. First things first, the mode is very boring as Bear. As Bear, you just walk around for around 30 seconds, and usually the survivor just dies eventually from another bear. If you're lucky, you might kill the survivor yourself, but as Bear, it's pretty boring. Also, some maps really suck to play on One Bounce. I already mentioned Anamoya, but pretty much any linear map sucks as well. Even good ones like Abandoned School can quickly become terrible the moment you're the survivor in One Bounce. So ultimately, even though I really like One Bounce as a challenge mode, it really depends on the map. On some maps, it's great and really fun, but on some maps, it's really bad. Thankfully, the next 2 game modes in this list, which coincidentally, or rather not coincidentally, make up the top 2, are the ones with the least flaws. So, let me introduce you to 2nd place, the one you're all familiar with, Classic. I mean, come on, Classic has to be high up on a list. It's literally the main mode you're going to be playing like 4/5 of the time. If the original mode of Bear Alpha wasn't as good as it was, then Bear probably wouldn't be as popular as it is. The gameplay loop's very simple, you just survive a single bear and do puzzles, and because of how fine-tuned and simple the gameplay is, there really isn't room for anything really bad to be in the mode. So therefore, Classic deserves 2nd place. but it would feel kind of weird putting it in first place considering how simple it is. Plus, it feels like this is the one mode that doesn't give you much quids at all. Even with double quids, you're only getting around 200 quids per round, which feels like barely anything. And if you don't have double quids, it takes you multiple rounds just to get the cheapest skins. And because of this, Classic doesn't get first. But you know what does get first? Double Down. After all, if one bear wasn't enough, just add another one and bam, you have perfection. It's exactly how it sounds. It's just classic mode but with one extra bear. However, to compensate for this, the game rewards you with twice the amount of quids than you would normally get. Therefore, the one problem I have with classic mode, that being not enough quids, is now solved because with double quids, you get 60 quids per puzzle, which is absurd. But don't think being bears unfun either, because perhaps my favourite thing about Double Down is the teamwork aspects to it. In Double Down, you can work together to defeat survivors. If one survivor's juking another bear too much, you can just intercept their path and therefore kill them. And so, therefore, despite not being a huge and drastic change to Bear Alpha's gameplay, the fact that it doesn't have anything wrong with it, and the fact that the few things it did add were really fun, means that Double Down deserves first place on the tier list. So, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, it helps my channel out a lot, and I plan on making more videos when the Halloween 2025 event comes out, which is gonna be epic. Anyways, like I said, that is the end, so therefore, goodbye. LOL.